What's up, curious youngsters? Every day, without realizing it, we consume hundreds of products. And while some are quite obvious in how they were made, others have a very curious process behind them. And while many people don't stop to think about the complex process behind the ice cream they're eating or the mustard they're consuming, other curious ones, like Mr. Curiosity, need the answer to everything. For this and much more, these are 7 things you consume daily and didn't know how they are made. 1. Ice cream. Each season of the year brings us something particular, and if summer has something unique, it's ice cream. When we are suffering from a hot day, there is nothing more relaxing than being able to have a delicious ice cream. Ice cream on a stick is one of the most popular varieties, despite coming in various flavors and shapes. To make ice cream, we first need several liters of milk and a few kilos of sugar, which form the base. While mixing, add vanilla. After a few minutes of beating at low temperatures, the mixture is ready. A machine is going to deposit this ice cream onto a conveyor belt, while a blade cuts it into the shape of ice cream, and the classic wooden stick is added to hold it. After this, the ice creams go through an air freezer at -40 degrees Celsius to achieve their perfect texture. They will now take a chocolate bath before being packaged and refrigerated. I think I need ice cream. 2. Flour. If there is something basic that should be found in all kitchens, it is wheat flour. This fine white powder has managed to feed humans since the year 6000 before Christ, when a group of people first processed wheat grains. But did you know how flour is made? Well, as we know, flour is obtained from ground cereals. So obviously there isn't just one variety, but we can find flours made from wheat, soy, rice, chestnuts, potatoes, and even fish flour. Yes, as strange as it sounds, but today we will focus on the most common one, wheat flour. The first step that is going to happen for us to be able to prepare any recipe with flour in our homes is to harvest the wheat plants. After 6 months from planting, the wheat begins to dry out, and it's time for the harvest. A large harvester will lift all the crops. As it moves forward, it separates the wheat grains from the plant and deposits them into a collection truck. Then, this truck heads to the plant where the processing will begin. The harvested grains will first be stored in massive silos until needed. When it's time, these grains are deposited into huge machines that are going to take care of the first filter, where the grains will continue their journey, while plant remains or anything else will be discarded. Now the grains are ready to be ground. When grains are broken, 3 elements are obtained: the bran, shell, the flour, main product, and a small seed. This is filtered, and we only keep the white flour, to which we can later add the bran that we previously removed to form a wholemeal flour. The flour is now ready for the final stage of packaging. 3 sheets of paper. It was supposed that the digital age was going to end the use of paper, but even with so many screens and technology, we still continue to use millions of kilos of paper in our daily life, although it is true that the amount of paper used has decreased. And also, there are more and more regulations asking companies to be responsible and not end up harming the environment. Since paper comes from trees, the first step of this curious process begins with the arrival of thousands of trees at the processing plant. These trees are typically birch and poplar due to their softwood nature and high resistance. Once the logs have arrived at the factory, they are placed on a conveyor belt that will take them to the first large machine, the debarker. This is a large cylinder that has a series of blades responsible for removing all the bark from the logs. The good thing is that this bark is not going to be discarded but will be used later on. The prepared logs will now be sent to a powerful shredder that will transform them into millions of tiny chips. The chips are going to a giant washer for cleaning and immersion in a chemical required for the next phase. The chips, now ready, will be cooked at around 1000 degrees C. Something so extreme that it will not only cook them, but also reduce them to a brown paste. To read text on a sheet, the paper must be as white as possible to create contrast. So now this paste is going to be bleached through different chemicals like chlorine dioxide, Then the excess moisture is extracted and all the paste is crushed to pass it through a machine that will force it against some rollers with pressure, which will form a huge sheet of paper. These sheets will be rolled up and then they will pass through very sharp blades which will give it the shape we know. Thank you so much, nature. For whiskey. Even though you might not drink it every day, some European countries have a great love for whiskey, and this makes it one of the most consumed liquors in the world. This legendary drink has the curiosity that spring water is usually used to produce it, since this lacks iron that could damage the whiskey's taste. But let's begin the process. First, we need cereals. Whiskey is typically made with corn, barley, and rye grains once they arrive at the factory. The ingredients are boiled in large containers, softening and releasing their properties. The filtered liquid is then introduced to yeast, which converts the sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. All this liquid is going to be fermenting for almost a week until the yeast has done all its work. After this, it is filtered, and now we would be facing a simple beer. So the next stage is what is going to transform this into whiskey. What happens at this moment is that the alcohol is separated from the water through a process of evaporation and condensation. This process yields a clear, hazardous liquid containing nearly 70% alcohol. The alcohol is then filtered with charcoal to remove a particular bitter taste. And now, it is ready to stop looking like a transparent drink and start to darken. To achieve this, it is deposited in oak or other wooden barrels, which impart color and flavor. These barrels are stored in a cellar where they will wait a few years before being opened. Once ready, it will be mixed with some water before bottling to reduce the alcohol content. 5. Mustard. When we choose dressings for our meals, ketchup, mayonnaise, and mustard come up. This last one has one of the most fascinating production processes. Mustard seeds have been used in cooking for hundreds of years. There are records that these seeds were used in the same way as now in ancient Rome. The ingredients were ground and mixed to create the famous sauce. And even though we don't wear armor anymore today, we still have mustard. To get our yellowish sauce, we are going to need salt, vinegar, water, mustard seeds, and other ingredients. All the ingredients are put into a large mixer, which spins at high speed for an hour, blending everything into a homogeneous sauce. This sauce is poured into some mills, where stones will take care of grinding the seeds that are still whole from the previous lid. After this grinding, an operator will perform a test to see how thick the mustard sediments are. Because if he finds something too thick, he will request that the mill be adjusted. To achieve a finer and cleaner sauce, be careful with the mustard. Timmy 6 tennis balls. To enjoy free time, many people practice different sports. And while football or basketball may be the most popular group sports, some others prefer something more individual and practice tennis. To play tennis, you need speed, skill, a racket, and many balls. But do you know how the balls are made? Historically, tennis balls were made from animal leather and filled with human hair. Yes, as it sounds, but luckily nowadays these yellowish balls are made with very different materials. It begins at a rubber plantation, where latex from the plants will be used to create the ball's core. The problem is that this natural rubber is soft and sticky, very different from the hard and flexible rubber that balls need. So then, it goes through a process known as vulcanization, where it receives sulfur and other chemicals to make it much more resistant. Once it's ready, it's going to go through some huge rollers, which will give us a large rubber mat. Then this is placed on some molds, and with pressure and a little heat, hundreds of hemispheres are obtained. After this, they are going to receive a glue bath to join with their other halves and take the shape of a ball. To prevent the balls from bouncing too high or smelling too quickly, they need to be coated, which requires a visit to a sheep farm. Their precious wool is taken from them, and they are left alone until the next year. Then, this wool is washed and mixed with nylon to get a very soft and durable material. Next, a large machine combs the wool to align all the fibers in the same direction, forming a very fine and large carpet. This carpet then turns into hundreds of threads that later, with a large loom and other machines, end up forming a massive fabric. But as we know, these balls are not white, so before leaving the factory, they are going to be dyed a greenish yellow color. The fabric is cut into a figure-8 shape and glued to the rubber balls using adhesive. Now these are bottled and are ready to be hit. 7 erasers. Even though today we can write and erase quickly with a keyboard and a computer, we still use pencils for many things. We know that a pencil allows us to write, but we may not have an eraser to correct mistakes. But how is an eraser made? The first thing needed is to place some rubber blocks on huge rollers. Rubber that used to be natural, but has now been replaced by synthetic rubber that comes from petroleum. These rollers have an internal thermal system, so while they press and move the rubber, they are going to heat it up. Then a bit of sulfur is added, some other chemicals, and our characteristic dye, which most of the time tends to be red. The ingredients continue to mix in the large rollers, becoming a homogeneous mass. Then vulcanized vegetable oil is added, which differs from common oil because it contains certain chemicals. The rubber's ability to erase marks from the paper is crucial. When the color is already correct, an operator removes the rubber sheet from the rollers, which is going to be soft and hot. Then they let it cool and harden for a few hours. When it's ready, a machine cuts a large square that is going to be placed in a press, which with force and a bit of heat is going to achieve a very compact and resistant rubber. The rubber is cut and prepared to join with the other blue rubber. This rubber, which legend says erased ink, is the same rubber but with pumice stone, an extra abrasive that enhances its erasing capacity. The two parts are joined using another press. Finally, they are cut, printed or labeled, and prepared for packaging. Before I go, let me greet a few subscribers. First, a huge hello to Sandra Espinosa Mauricio, then a little hello to Gabriel Bacusta. Another greeting to Dylan Societe Anonyme. I also send a big greeting to Clandar Fury and Paul Garcia. Then another greeting to Sofia Victoria Ovale. And finally, I send a big greeting to Milton Paladin. Another little hello to Alan Yvonne Gomez. And the last greeting is going to go to the crack of Ezio Alonso and Valentin. Now yes, leave your like, comment everything, really, everything you want. Do not forget to share the channel and the video with your friends. So now, more kisses from Senor Furioso. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell so you don't miss any new video. I am Senor Curiosity.